We see some visiting friends. It's nice to have you with us. Thank you for being here and to our regular members. At this time, I'm going to turn over to our presenter, Mr. Yip. Welcome. Let's put our hands together and give him a warm round of applause. Welcome back to Toronto and Bronte Seventh Adventist Church.
Well, it's good to be back. I recall it was much colder last year. You got really good weather. For the sake of the camera, I'm going to stand here. I've got, well, perhaps a little bit about myself. The series is Meditation, Mind, and Spirituality. And my family name is Yip. And, my given name is Double Barrel, typical Chinese, Kok Tok. All right? So I've walked into hotels with reservation, and I say, have you got a reservation for Mr. Yip? And they say, no, we've got one for Mr. Kok or Mr. To. I get mixed up. I live in Malaysia, Singapore particularly, but that's a picture of Annan. It's a health center. I'm chairman of the board of this health center. It's up in the hills. I'll show you the picture. Sitting from the balcony, that main spot there, that's the view on a beautiful morning. And that's the schoolhouse and staff quarters, the white one. And the red one is the doctor's residence. So it's up in the hills, tucked away, neat little place. And I'd like to invite you over there. Wonderful place. And I hope your pastor does come one day. What I'm going to do is to start today, it's the start of a 5-hour series. But I'm going to introduce the subject slowly, because for a lot of you folks out west, far west, the Eastern stuff is, if I introduce it technically, facts, right? It doesn't get into, for you to understand it. I'll tell you stories today to get you into the flavor, all right? But the important thing is I need your attention, because most people think that meditation, because it's about silence, about mantras, it's natural, it's not dangerous, it's silent to begin with, it's about nothingness. How can it be dangerous? But it's very, very dangerous. Use this 5 hours, which I have, to bring you to how dangerous it is and where it is going with humanity, because it's everywhere. It's even in schools as mindfulness. So it's not natural, as they claim. Now, the important thing to know is I'm going to show you how it is based on the immortal soul. Now, why? The reason is this. When an Easterner meditates, he is emptying his mind, silencing it, pushing away all secular distractions, so that when in that thoroughly quiet moment, he discovers his inner divine. And that inner divine is just another word for the immortal soul. And someone who doesn't believe in God, when he meditates, he is trying to find or to discover his true self, his better self, which is another word for a lighter version of the immortal soul. Now, Christians now meditate, mantra style, Eastern style. And what are they meant to discover? I've asked them. They say, we are made in the image of God, so we're trying to discover and to find that image of God. Now, that is another version of, a twisted version of what the image means. To them, it's the immortal soul, given at birth. Right? And for Christians now, another version is, we meditate to discover the Holy Spirit within. Now, whether they are converted, nominal, or unconverted, they presume that there is the Holy Spirit within. So when they meditate to discover the Holy Spirit within, and they discover it because of neural phenomena that's happening in the brain, they presume to discover the Holy Spirit within. Now, I'm going to show you research from a Dr. Newberg. He's one of the top researchers of what happens in the brain when meditating. And he is amazed at the neural phenomena, and he believes this, that all men are wired in there to discover God. So you are wired for God consciousness. So the wiring itself exists and it is God. So there again is a scientific explanation of the immortal soul within. Your wiring, your neural network that allows you to conceptualize God within. So with this kind of approach and relationship to what is happening, it is very clear to me what Ellen White said. She said the second angel's message, the wine of Babylon. Sure, it's heresy, and everybody knows it's heresy, but she lifted up two active ingredients. And she said, it's the immortal soul and Sunday sacredness. If you drink that wine, you'll accept the mark. So it's the immortal soul, the second angel's message of Revelation 15, the message, all right? And he calls me up on the internet and said, may I have your PowerPoints? Because my children's school in Alice Springs is introducing mindfulness. And I thought to myself, what? In the middle of Australia? Why would something that's so, sophisticated or so new, relatively new, get into that middle of Australia? Well, because it's gone into the school system. Goes into the school system, goes everywhere. So it's in the school system. All right, so I will start with giving you this first hour, a broad sweep, the romance of what this is all about. But I will bring out where it is going. All right? Now, this is Milarepa. It's Tibet's most renowned yogi. And if you look at him, he's skin and bones. And the greatest yogi, when he goes into meditation, he goes in for weeks. He has to be bathed. He has to be fed. Now, if we had problems with our life, stress, and we went to Milarepa and we said, Mr. Milarepa, what can you do to help me? He would say, come into meditation with me. And that's in Malaysia. And we had these people, they were in the mountains, in the hills, by the river. And to me, as I was growing up, and we were a British colony, I looked at them and said, oh, but I don't want to be like them. Right? They're not my kind. They're not sociable. They're not with it. So they were in the backyard, but completely ignored by the people growing up like myself. Now, I went then, after high school, to London to study accounting. And wow, it's a different scene there. The meditators were with Maharishi Guru, and they were celebrities like the Beatles. And this was the age of the flower people, the miniskirt, And wow, I said, this is good stuff. And I, from the East, who disdained meditation, picked it up. I picked up something called Zen meditation. So how it is packaged is where the danger is. It's romanticized, right? It's made popular. Now, there are two levels of Buddhism. There is this one here, this level, where there's karma and reincarnation. Now, karma is your good-evil account. If you had a bad account, you did more evil than good. You had bad karma, and with bad karma, you reincarnate. When you die, you may risk being reincarnated into something of a lower form, like a rat or a cockroach or something. So people at this level were caught between karma and reincarnation. That's the tension of Buddhist life. But along comes meditation, and this is also Hinduism, Buddhism, where through meditation, one is liberated from karma and reincarnation. So Buddhahood is liberation. And now, so how is one liberated in their practice from karma? In meditation, you get into a state of non-duality. Now, what is non-duality? Non-duality is that the mind comes to a point where reality, like life and death, good and evil, are illusions, not real. There is another reality, the true self, the inner divine, all right? Being one with the universe. That inner reality, or the true reality, makes the good-evil reality illusions. So in meditation, Buddha reached this state where it's non-dual, where he's detached from reality into an altered reality, and in that altered reality, there's no such thing as good and evil. So without good and evil, Buddha was liberated from karma. Without good and evil, there's no karma account. Right? So it's liberated from it. Now, without the being able to perceive life and death, you don't have reincarnation. So all at once, he's liberated. Liberated from good and evil, liberated from life and death, from reincarnation. So the tension of that level, that low level, common level of Buddhism was gone. You either was caught, you don't meditate and you are caught at the first level. You meditate and you escape that level into non-dual. Right? So these are the two levels. So I'm going to dwell on this word non-dual quite a bit. I'm going to explain non-dual to you as much as I can. Right? Let's say non-dual is not differentiating between good and evil, between all polar opposites, not differentiating. So if you were all here on the right, saints, and all over there, wicked, me, I do not differentiate. I sometimes sit with you, the saints, sometimes sits over there, and I don't care. I do not differentiate. I'm non-dual to either. I'm above you. You follow this? I'm above and beyond this distinction. Or I'm a spy, and two countries are at war. I spy for you against them, and then I spy for them against you. I am non-dual. I am beyond the both of you. Right? But I don't make the distinction. So I actually don't make the distinction, and I see you both as one. Non-dual, not two, but one. Right? So good and evil, non-dual point of view. Oh yes, they're there for you folks, but in a non-dual mindset, in a meditative mindset, when you get there, one. Right? And I am beyond it. I have merged opposites. Right? Now, this concept is very dangerous. To say the least, not to differentiate between good and evil is fundamentally dangerous for Christians. Right? But it's deep into their philosophy, into their belief system. Now, out of the Beatles meditating on Maharishi Guru, and I'm sure some of you know it, imagine there's no heaven. And the lyrics go, imagine there's no heaven, no hell below us, and no religion too, and the world will live as one. Right? No religion, no this religion, that religion, non-dual, merge them all together, no heaven, no hell, and the world lives as one. You see where it's going? It sounds very good. This song was dedicated to Pope Francis when he spoke at the United Nations. Now, imagine this. Pope Francis, head of religion, a song dedicated to him that says, no heaven, no hell, no religion. Now, what's this? Because as a Jesuit, Pope, as a Jesuit, they believe of God in all things. God in every man, whether you are a saint or wicked, whether you're good or evil. It's a song that's about non-dual. It's a meditative song. So I'm hoping that you get the flavor of this, where it's all going, in the big picture, in a narrative. All right? Now, this is my friend. As you recall the story, I was 18, I went to London, and I picked up the popular, the Western form of meditation, Zen. And they wrote romantic stories like Zen and archery, Zen and the art of motorcycle repair, or something like that. Right? And that's all romanticized. But my friend here also left high school. But he went and became a monk, a Buddhist monk. He spoke English, and as he meditated, his services with the popularity of meditation became immense. And he traveled widely, spoke in Europe. I think that's the Sydney Bridge, I think. Harbour Bridge. Yeah, there it is. That, what is it called? Yeah, right. And so he spoke widely, well sought after. Now, I hadn't seen him for 50 years. And it was a school reunion after 50 years. And I found out that he had become a monk. And I was into speaking and research. And I wanted to meet him and talk to him, to get into the depth of what he's been through. So I called him up. And he said, his assistant said, he can't speak to you because he is in 2 months of silence. He can only see you after 2 months. Now that's antisocial. And I said, okay, fine, I'll still want to see him. 2 months later, where is he? Oh, he gave me an address, and when I Googled it, it was in the middle of nowhere. And by the time I was out there, it was dirt road and dusty. Now, they live in these places. Right? And then I met him. And it was dinner time. And he said, I won't be taking dinner because with the 2 months of silence, I'm also fasting and I've got gastric as a feature of his life. Okay. But I had time to talk to him. And one of the things he said to me, which is resonating throughout mystical or contemplative Christianity, he said, religion is going to be obsolete. Now, what does that mean? Karl Rahner said that. You are either a mystic. If you're a Christian, you become a mystic. If not, you're not Christian. All right? So he said, religion is going to be obsolete. Why? Because in their meditation, they discover the inner divine. And the inner divine is in every man. So, there he is, meditating, having discovered his inner divine. But then there are others who do not meditate. But they still have that inner divine, undiscovered. So, we are still one. You see this? So, spirituality is inherent, it's inborn. True spirituality is when you discover it. But you still have it. So it's so inclusive, so loving, that religion is going to be obsolete because it's all about discovering what you've got. So, Christians discover what they've got. Buddhists, Hindus, even the person who doesn't believe in God discovers that he's got a better self. So religion is going to be obsolete. You follow this? So there he was, and I had a good conversation with him. And now, I want to describe this word, pantheism. This is what Buddhism or Zen meditation is all about. Now, pantheism means pan is all, right? Theism is God. So they get to a point, and this is the underlying belief system. All is God. In other words, the flowers, the trees, the leaves, the air, and everyone in this room. And everyone else is God, in essence. In other words, the essence of God, the Spirit of God, the power of God is in everything and in every man, irrespective from birth. Now, it's very seductive, very sweet, very inclusive. But is it true? But through a meditative process, they cause the mind to detach from reality, back up into that divine. That inner divine is connected with the outer divine, and it's all energy, essence. So pantheism is all is God, not as a person God, but an essence God. You follow this? Okay? Not a person. Energy, gravity. Now, you will recall Dr. Kellogg, Living Temple. That's exactly what he said. And Ellen White and folks said, that's pantheism. Because he said, there is a God maker in the leaf, right? Or the grass. In other words, the essence of God is everywhere. And Ellen White challenged, posed a hard question to Kellogg. She said, God is a person. Right? So she's saying, no, pantheism is wrong. God isn't. But it was at that stage of the development. Kellogg was talking about essence, gravity, energy. Now, so when the essence of energy, gravity, saturates and pervades everything, then everything is God. Every man is God. Every woman is God, irrespective. Now, we know for a fact that there are good men and bad people. So, to get to the mindset that everyone is God, you have to kill differentiation. No good, no evil. Right? So that's where they go. Without the destruction or the indifference towards good and evil, there's no possibility of saying everyone is God. So that meditative foundation, to allow that to happen, to allow pantheism to exist, has to declare that as their foundational belief. So there are two levels of Buddhism, the good and evil level, all right, and, there's the good and evil, the karma and reincarnation level, and here in pantheism is the second level. No good, no evil, no differentiation. Without differentiation, all is God. That's pantheism. Now, was Dr. Kellogg dangerous? Very dangerous. That would have, if he had succeeded, that would have killed our truth right there. So he was defeated, right? Now, Carl Jung, noted psychiatrist, what does he say of Taoism, which is a kind of Eastern belief associated with Buddhism? And this is what he said. According to the central concepts of Taoism, Tao is divided into fundamental pair of opposites, yin and yang. Now, this is yin and yang, right? The black and white, right? The yin and the yang. As a microcosm, man is a reconciler of opposites. Man is a microcosm uniting the world of opposites. So he's observing, Carl Jung is observing humanity, Taoists. And he said, wow, these people believe that they are a reconciler of polar opposites. Man is a reconciler of good and evil within him. That's him. That's how they think. That's how Taoists think. Right now, there is a picture. I didn't draw this, but it's all on the internet as well. The black, here is the bad. The white, here is the good. The black within the white, here is the bad that is in the good. And the white in the black, here is the good that's in the black. Bad, sorry. And when you put it all together, that's yin yang. Here's life. So that picture reflects Carl Jung, his observation of Eastern beliefs, of Taoism. So not only is the concept out there for meditators, non-dual, but it is a pictogram, like a flag even, in all Buddhist houses. It is there, staring at them day and night. A king would accept that as who he is, Taoist. He is a non-dual human being. A pauper would accept that. It's invaded and percolated and saturated the East. That's how deep it's gone. Now, the East wasn't protected, didn't have the benefit of Christianity to protect it from this kind of stuff. And so it saturated the East. Right? Now, the West, I'll show you, was partly saturated, but it had Christianity that protected it from Greek thinking. And Greek thinking is identical. When Plato and Aristotle started this thing, Buddhism was about the same time in the East. But before that, there was Hinduism in the East. And Hinduism embraces this kind of thinking as well. So the East is saturated. I'll tell you a story that make this more prominent in your mind. It's how seductive pantheism is. I'll tell you the story. I heard it on YouTube. It was a speaker, very good speaker, and he had the audience in his palm, the palm of his hands. They were following his every word, and the camera panned the audience, and they were nodding and laughing. And this is how, well, I couldn't tell it as he told it, but I'll tell you the gist of it, so that you understand how it is so surreptitious. It comes into the mind through a simple story. And he said, there was a great king going to battle with his army. And the king thought about what happens if he dies. What is heaven and what is hell? Polar opposites, right? And so he came across the wise man. And he asked the wise man, what is heaven and what is hell? And the wise man said, oh, great king, I have no time for you. And the king got angry and said, wise man, I will slay you if you don't tell me. And the wise man said, oh, now there's hell in you. And then the king said, oh, thank you, wise man. I'm so grateful. And the wise man then said, oh, now there is heaven in you. So here's a Buddhist story. And everybody nodded and was gleeful. But here the idea that we are both, the great king is both good and evil. The wise man is both good and evil. The rest of us, we're all good and evil. So that concept, that underlying pantheistic concept, just flows in through an innocent story. Now, we as Christians can be overtaken by stories. All right? And I'll tell you some later. So, Eastern non-dual spiritualism. The entering wedge is not you, not I, oneness. There you are, you're you, that's me. But I'm if I'm selling meditation, Eastern meditation, I'll tell you, when we get into this meditative state, all 30 of us, we will feel like one. And that's how God wants us to be. It's sold that way. That's the entering way. That is the packaging. But within that packaging, when you look at it, when you open it, at its depth, its foundation, is there's no good, no evil, no differentiation, no righteous, no sinner, no life, no death, no heaven, no hell, no God, no Satan. Hence, we know if that exists, there's no judgment. Right? If there's no differentiation, there's no judgment. Right? And so we see the Dalai Lama saying, what is love? Love is the absence of judgment. And the whole world says, wow, this is love. That's how dangerous it is. It is so romanticized. It is sentimental. It's gone into music, into stories, into education, into therapy, into the Christian church. You know, my little group in Singapore, we know each other very well. They're beginning to say things like, let's not judge, let's not talk about evil, let's just talk about truth. So we're not differentiating anymore. We're going that way. I don't know why suddenly am I getting sensitive to these things and I can see things, or are people going that way? Right? So, what is he saying? He's saying in love is the absence of judgment. He's saying this, where both good and evil, opposites, all polar opposites, become one. And that's love. Malachi 2:17. Where ye have wearied the Lord, speaking to the people of Israel. Right? Ye have wearied the Lord with your words. Yet you say, wherein have we wearied him? When ye say, everyone that doeth evil is good in the sight of the Lord, and he delighteth in them. Or where is the God of judgment? This becomes a Christian condition at the end of time. Why? Not just because of those guys, Christians who are meditating and going to contemplation, but because spiritualism enters the Christian church in a larger context. But there is a form of spiritualism that's meditative, and it's doing its work. But Ellen White said this. Spiritualism, the grosser forms, the fundamental basic forms, is not this stuff. Now, this stuff is the stuff that unites leaders at high levels, and I'll show you. But the grosser forms is non-differentiation amongst common people. If you don't care about what you hear, what you see, what you eat, when you sleep, that's spiritualism. When you do not differentiate. You don't care to differentiate. That itself is spiritualism. And that's the spiritualism of our youth. Right? I'll tell you some more stories. This meditative stuff is packaged with beautiful stories, and I was like overtaken by them. The story of mind and matter. The archer. This is a Zen story. The archer perceives an apple on a stick at 40 meters. He's in a big tent. The flaps of the tent go down. He's in total darkness, but he holds the image of the apple in his mind. He arms his bow, releases the arrow, and it hits the apple. Mind over matter. That's Zen in archery. Okay? And the story of the old monk and the young monk. Okay, the monks are renunciation. They renunciate the world. They're not attached. the male monks are celibate. They don't look at women, much less touch them. So there's this old monk and a young monk, a novice monk. And they're going on their way. And they came across a flooded river. And on their side of the river was a beautiful maiden. She couldn't get across because it was too deep. The old monk went over to her, carried her in his arms, and went through the flood, and then let her down. And the young monk gets agitated. He was silent for 2 minutes, and then he tugs at the old monk's sleeve and said, "You know, we're not even supposed to look at women. You touched her, and that's terrible." And the old monk kept silent, and they went and walked a few more minutes. 5 minutes later, the young monk tugs at his sleeve again, and he ignored him. And again, and the old monk then turned to him finally. "You know, I've left her there. That was 20 minutes ago. Are you still carrying her in your mind?" So this is a mind over matter. So they glorify the mind, right? That we all can overcome. Right? But it is only through and all you need is to have that ability in your mind, a power within. That's what they are promoting. So that is the flavor of Zen. All right? Now, who has heard of this story? It's going around. My friend, a Christian, sent it to me. The Cherokee chief and the story of the two wolves within. Has anybody seen it? Oh, you have? Okay. All right. So there he tells a story. He's with his young son about two wolves within everyone. And he said, well, there's the good wolf and the bad wolf. And the good wolf is loving, caring, and altruistic, empathizes, merciful. But the bad wolf, he's wicked. Right? He's evil. He claws and is selfish. And then as he tells the story, of course the young son would ask, which wolves win? And the chief says, well, the one you feed. All right? Good story, huh? I got it from my Christian friends. But at the end of the pictures that were sent was the one on the right, the one you feed. And can you see it's black and white? Can you see it's like yin yang? Black and white, the eyes are, So it is the basis of this story is yin yang. Everyone has the good and evil. Much as the white wolf may be fed and is stronger, the black wolf doesn't die. The evil doesn't die. They exist forever and ever. That's the Eastern thinking. They coexist and become one, as in yin and yang. So these stories are there. It's the yin-yang story. All right, now, the three wise monkeys. You must know it. This one is everywhere. Okay, three wise monkeys. What don't they do? They don't see evil, they don't hear evil, they don't say evil. And they're wise, right? If you don't do these things, you're wise. That's what it's meant to say. Now, I ask you, if you don't do evil, there's no suggestion that these three wise monkeys do any good. If they don't do evil and they don't do good, they are wise. That's what it's suggesting. Right? No good, no evil. What is that? Non-dual. If you don't do good and don't